Good afternoon. There's that small shot. There we go. Good afternoon. Saturday, September 11th, 2021. Welcome to 7 to 9 Minutes in the Word of God. My name is Brian. I'm a co-pastor at Converge Church in Omaha. Webpage, convergechurchomaha.org. Please like us on Facebook, Converge Church. If you're viewing this on YouTube, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. The name of the channel is 7 to 9 Minutes in the Word of God. Today is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Most of us remember exactly what we were doing when we became aware of what was happening in New York City. Now, 20 years ago, my family and I lived in Hawaii on September 11th, 2001. And so there's a 6 hour time difference between New York City and Hawaii. And so we were asleep when the planes were hijacked and used as weapons as they crashed into the towers of the World Trade Center. A friend of ours called and he said, I answered the phone and he said, turn on your TV. Our country's being attacked. And I just woke up. I said, what? He says, turn on your TV. Our country is being attacked. And so I took the remote, I turned on the TV, and you can see the burning towers. And for most of the day, like you as well, our eyes were just glued to the TV as we witnessed a tremendous loss of life as the two towers collapsed, as another hijacked plane flew into the Pentagon. And then when Flight 93 was hijacked, but through the heroics of the passengers, they overpowered the hijackers and forced the plane to crash. Everyone, of course, on that plane died, but no doubt the loss of life would have been greater if the plane crashed into another government building. Now, nearly 3,000 people perished on that tragic day. And so we are here 20 years later, remembering all those who lost their lives. We should pray for the family members of the victims for God's peace and comfort. It must be a very difficult day. I also read that COVID is hitting the first responders and other survivors of 9/11 very, very hard. So that's another way that we can pray for people on this day. Of the nearly 3,000 who lost their lives that day, 441 were first responders. 441 men and women sacrificed their lives to save others. Law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, and EMTs. Someone today reminded me that it was a Catholic chaplain of the New York City Fire Department. He was the first victim of the attack, besides all those who initially perished when the planes crashed into the towers. This chaplain rushed into the North Tower right after the plane crashed into it. He rushed in to help evacuate people. He gave comfort to the injured. He prayed over the dead. And the middle of praying, this chaplain was struck in the head by falling debris. And so he was the first responder to give his life that very day. Now, you may have noticed I'm not wearing my usual hat. There is a reason. In my senior softball league, we have an annual tournament. It's a fun tournament where we play 3 games and then we enjoy a fried chicken meal. So that's what I was doing all morning and part of the afternoon. It's a huge tournament, over 180 players. Well, today, since it is the 20th anniversary of 9/11, all 4 fields, all 4 games that were taking place at that particular time, it was about 9:45. We took a short break to have a memorial service on the field where the flag was at, and then we would have the national anthem. And I was part of that service today. A couple weeks ago, I was asked to say a few words and then pray. And so I wore this hat today. You from Hawaii will get it, will understand. It's a University of Hawaii Warriors hat. So I wore it to remind me that we lived in Hawaii at that time 20 years ago. Plus, I wore it. I don't know if you can see that flag. Can you? I can't tell where my head's turned. There we go. There's an American flag on there as well to remind us that we live in such a great country. And so it was a fun day of playing softball. The team I played on went 3-0 and had great chicken. But we're all reminded of that tragic day 20 years ago. For the first two games, I wore a black, thick polo shirt. I have not worn that shirt for years. I wore that shirt like the hat for a reason. It was a shirt that I wore when I was one of the chaplains for the Omaha Police Department. It had a Omaha Police Chaplain logo on it. And during those years, I was probably chaplain for 4 or 5 years. During those years, I got a taste of what it was like to be a first responder, especially on December 5th, 2007, when that tragic shooting took place at the Von Maur store at the Westroads Mall. All the chaplains were called in. And on that night, I accompanied a police officer to deliver a death notification to a father and children that his wife and their mom was among the victims. It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, but it was, like I said, it was just a taste, a reminder of what the full-time first responders do. Maybe on a weekly basis, I don't know, but certainly quite a day on December 11th, 2001. Let's think about the first responders once again. 441 of them gave their lives to save others. They were trained to help in an emergency. Many of them died when the towers collapsed. Others died from toxic debris. 441, including 23 New York Police Department officers, 343 New York City firefighters, and 37 police officers from the Port Authority of New Jersey. Now, the Bible in Romans chapter 13 says that the governing authorities have been instituted by God, and they are put into place for the protection of citizens. And thus, as citizens, we are to be subject to them. And so when you see a police officer, or you see a firefighter or an EMT or other first responders, see anybody in the military service, these are institutions instituted by God. And they are put in place, divinely put in place for our protection. And so we ought to honor them, and we certainly should be thinking about those who perished 20 years ago and praying for their families as well. So here we are on this Saturday. Let's play ball. Let's watch some college football. But may we never forget what happened 20 years ago. And let's honor our first responders. So thank you for being part of 7 to 9 Minutes. I will come back next week when I will introduce a new subject matter called the Christian and Mental Health. And so that will take a number of episodes. Looking forward to it. Thank you again. Have a great weekend.